Okay. Fine. So from here, what we are supposed to conclude here, fallopian tube, where the process of fertilization takes place, and the uterus is a place for the embryonic development. Uterus is a place for the embryonic development, and 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 Siddhant. I'm just answering Siddhant question. Siddhant is asking about, does every sperm of Y type contain the same data? If yes, why two brothers are different in characteristics? Is there a different kind of the gene sequencing in every zygote? Obviously, genes are similar. Genes are similar, but the sequencing are different in both of the cases. Like example, if you talk about you and your siblings, right? So you both are. Suppose if I talk about myself and my brother, so we both are the product of the same parent, but even we are not going to see 100% of the gene similarity. Apart from knowing this fact, we are the product of the same parent, because see what happened during the process of gametogenesis, means when the process of this spermatogenesis and oogenesis takes place, when the process of sperm and egg formation takes place in meiosis. So before doing this process, a special kind of phenomenon takes place that is not required for exam, and that's why, right, we skip, but you asked and then I am replying. Right, that process is what? That process is the crossing over. Crossing over means what? Listen, my every cell has one mother and the one father chromosome like this. Fine, and see, before the separation of these chromosomes, fine, then what happened? The mixing of these two chromosomes takes place. Fine, like example, this is my mother chromosome and this is my father chromosome. Clear? And suppose if in the process of gametogenesis, if mother chromosome means 46, I am just talking about the chromosome pairing in 23 pairs. Fine. So suppose in the process of gametogenesis, every pair is going to be separate apart. So in that case, what happened? One sperm will have the mother sequence and the second sperm will have the father sequence, and that is against the law of evolution. So before this kind of the separation, what happened? These two chromosomes at every position is followed by the process of crossing over, and the crossing over is what? That is the mixing of chromosomal part, of both mother and the father chromosome. That mixing takes place, and then after this mixing, these two are going to be separate apart. So that will ensure every chromosome means the product will have the mother and the father gene sequences in every chromosome. Means the sperm with the 23 chromosome sequences are going to have both mother and the father chromosome, and the egg with the 23 chromosome sequences are also going to have a mother and father chromosome. So why this variation is there? This variation is just because of the differences in the frequency of this mixing. Right? Sometimes this mixing stands from 0 to 50%, 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%, 5%, 6%, maybe 50%. Right? So less mixing, that is the less variation, and the more mixing means more variation. So I am different from my brother just because of because when I was derived during that period, just before that sexual cycle, the frequency of the crossing over in my parental gametes were different as compared to right? Crossing over frequency in the case of my brother sexual, my brother, in the case of my brother developmental cycle. Fine. So that concept is not required. Simply what you ask, and then I am replying here. That is just because of the frequency difference of the crossing over that leads to variation in the different siblings of the same parent. That is because of the frequency difference of the crossing over, and the crossing over is nothing but this is required to ensure the distribution of the mother and the father gene in every chromosome of either of the gamete, whether it is the male and the female. Fine, okay. So again, in the same continuation, you heard about there's a one term like MTP, that is medical termination of Pregnancy Act 1971. Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act 1971. And we are amending this act now. We are amending this act, 1971 act. So fine, listen, if you just look at, this bill is all about medical termination of the pregnancy amendment bill 2020. And this bill amends the Medical Termination of the Pregnancy Act 1971. So 1971 Act says that the pregnancy must be terminated within 12 weeks with the consent of one medical doctor. And when the female is going to terminate this pregnancy between 12 to 20 weeks, the consent of the two medical practitioners are required. Means termination within 12 weeks, one doctor consent is required, and between 12 to 20 weeks, the consent of the two medical practitioners are required as per the 1971 Act. Now we are simply amending this, and this amendment is what here, just increasing this 12 weeks, up to the 20 weeks. Means now this 12 week increasing to the 20 weeks with the consent of one doctor. Yes. Then 12 to 20 weeks is now extended to the 20 to 24 weeks. And for this, the consent of two doctors are required. The termination of the pregnancy up to the 24 weeks will apply only to the specific condition, and here the approval of two medical practitioners will be required for the termination of the pregnancy between what 20 to 24 weeks. Clear? And then after that, Anna, means for the 12 weeks, this 12 weeks is extended to the 20 weeks with the consent of one doctor, and 12 to 20 weeks is extended to the 20 to 24 weeks with the consent of two doctors. That is the amendment. Yes, this is the part of Act and this is the part of Amendment Bill. Amendment Bill 2020. Right? Fine? Yes? Then, apart from this, this is the first amendment what we are talking about. Yes? Right? The second is the Constitution of Medical Board. The second part of this amendment is the Constitution of Medical Board, and the third is the protection of the privacy of the women. This bill states that no registered medical practitioner will allow to reveal the name or other particulars of the woman whose pregnancy has been terminated except to the person authorized by law. And in that case, there is a punishment. Anyone who contravenes this provision will be punishable with imprisonment of up to 1 year or with fine or both. Fine. So the first is what? First is abortion period extension. Second is the Constitution of the Medical Board. Yes, and the third is the protection of the privacy of the women. These three are the clause of this amendment bill that was tabled in Parliament in 2020 just to amend 1971 MTP Act. Is that clear? Is that clear? Yes, please let me know. Is it clear or not? Please let me know, dear friends. If you are going to respond, then I will proceed. भारत रिलेशन दिस इज क्या पूछता है यार भारत भूषण इट्स अ सिली क्वेश्चन द चाइल्ड इज born after birth or during fertilization. Listen, Bharat Bhushan, see, let me apply here. Anna, suppose I am going to take this as my example or even your example. So we all resulted as a result of fertilization. Huh? This is me, you or anyone. Anna? It's me, you or anyone. Anna? This is what? It's a me, you or anyone. And we all went through 9 months of the gestation. 9 months of the gestation. So this 9 months of the gestation or embryonic development is required for the completion of this embryonic development. And then after means fertilization is 9 months before. Fertilization is this stage. And then fertilization is followed by the 9 months of the development. This fertilization is followed by the 9 months of development, and then after 9 months, we born as a normal baby, whether it is male or female. Right? Fine. So fertilization is 9 months before, and the baby development is 9 months after. And between the fertilization and the baby development, baby birth. Fine. Between the fertilization and the baby birth, the period is what? That period is called as the embryonic gestation or embryonic development. I hope you understand. Bharat Bhushan. Fine. So at the same time, we also need to discuss about one more concept, and that is what? It's a assisted reproductive technique. And this assisted reproductive technique, it has the concept of IVF. It has the concept of cryopreservation. It has concept of artificial insemination. This has concept of surrogacy. It's all about right. Means here the entire process of the discussion involves the process of reproduction, means artificial reproduction. So let me take one by one. Like this, first is the cryopreservation. See, there are so many questions that was asked in the mails. You could see here. Discuss the element of frozen semen technology. What is embryo transfer technology? Transgenic animal and the recombinant DNA organism in 2003. In the context of the ART, India has emerged as a hub of commercial surrogacy. What biological, legal and ethical issues may consider while framing the regulation to govern surrogacy in India, that we are going to discuss. The entire topics we are going to discuss. Okay, fine. So listen, let me take here step by step, one by one. Like there, the first is cryo preservation. है ना? So the word cryopreservation itself is the word CRYO, that is low temperature, and the preservation means what? It's a storage, low temperature storage. So low temperature storage means what? That is the concept of sperm storage, egg storage, or embryo storage. And this storage is done at minus 196 degrees Celsius temperature in liquid nitrogen. Right. So when we talk about this concept of sperm bank, means where this sperm is preserved. So this sperm is preserved at minus 196 degrees Celsius temperature in liquid. The concept of egg bank, it means we are simply talking about cryopreservation. We are simply talking about cryopreservation. Fine, okay. So the cryopreservation means what? That is the storage of the gametic cells at minus 196 degrees Celsius temperature in liquid nitrogen. And the result would be storage of the gametic cells for long time. Storage of the gametic cells for long time. Fine, okay. Storage of the gametic cells for long time. Then this is the first step. Second is IVF, in vitro fertilization. And in vitro fertilization means what? That is artificial fertilization. And here the result is test tube baby. Right? And the same technique is also known as embryo transfer technique. Embryo transfer technique. Tony. It's not a 196. Tony, please. It's a minus 196. It's a minus 196. It's not 196. It's not a 196. Right? Tony, because nitrogen is gas. And when we try to change the state of the matter from gas to liquid, yes, lowering of the temperature is required. So the nitrogen gas is going to be lower, is going to be liquefied at this temperature, that is minus 196 degrees Celsius temperature. That's why we are using this temperature at a minus 196 degrees Celsius temperature. So the minus 196 degrees Celsius temperature is required for the liquefaction of the gaseous nitrogen. liquefaction of the gaseous nitrogen. That's why we are simply using this temperature. Okay, and the same is called as the embryo transfer technique. Yes, and this technique was discovered. This technique was discovered by Dr. Robert Edward in 1978, and this doctor awarded Nobel Prize for the same in 2010. So the world first test tube baby became possible. World first test tube baby became possible because of Robert Edward in 1978. So this is called as the IVF, in vitro fertilization, artificial fertilization, embryo transfer technique. The result is the test tube baby, and doctor is Robert Edward, and this doctor awarded Nobel Prize in 2010. Right? Okay. Done. So what actually is done in this process? See, in lab, in lab, this is what? It's a test tube. Simply mixing egg and sperm. Yes, simply mixing egg and sperm. Then the result is what? Zygote. This zygote starts multiplying like this. It will become embryo, and then this embryo is transferred to female uterus for completion of embryonic development, and as a result of embryonic development, this baby will born. Right? So the entire process is what? The entire process is also known as embryo transfer technique. So this embryo is derived artificially in the lab. While the development of this embryo is natural in uterus. Natural in uterus. The development is natural in uterus. Right? So the purpose is what? Purpose means it is boon to childless couple. It is boon to childless couple. दूसरा, the second would be fixing genetic defect. fixing genetic defect. Suppose if we are going to see more than one zygote, 1, 2, 3, zygote number 1, 2, 3. Yes, more than one zygote if you are going to see, and again we are looking that this zygote is faulty, this zygote is faulty. While this zygote faulty means what? This zygote has gene defect. This zygote has genetic defect. So we need to avoid. And if this zygote is healthy, so this zygote is followed by embryonic development and the rest of the process is going to be developed. So this ensures the fixing of gene defect right before the birth of the baby, before the embryonic development of the zygote or before the birth of the baby, and only healthy zygote or the healthy baby is going to be developed or born. Right? Means we are just trying to nullify the possibility of genetic defect, the possibility of the expression of the faulty gene in this process of the IVF. So apart from the childless couple, it is also used for, this is also known as, for this there is a technical term. Means the second point what we have mentioned here, for this second point, there is a term like, this is pre-implantation genetic diagnosis. Pre-implantation genetic diagnosis. Pre-implantation genetic diagnosis. This entire discussion is, the second technique is technically called as pre-implantation genetic diagnosis. Right? Manjula, is there any difference between the artificial embryo and natural embryo? Manjula, embryo is always natural. Embryo is always natural, only the way is different. Means suppose I am the product of natural fertilization. I am the product of natural fertilization. Clear? So in my case, this fertilization took place in my mother's fallopian tube, and then from the fallopian tube I was in the zygotic stage, and then I transferred to the uterus for the commencement of the entire embryonic development. Right? Means in my case, the place of fertilization was natural and even the development was also natural. Fine. But suppose if I would be the result of artificial, means IVF, so in that case I was supposed to be developed in the lab by the mixing of my father's egg, my father's sperm and my mother egg, right? And then I was supposed to be established in the lab in the form of zygotic stage, and then I was supposed to be transferred to my mother's uterus for the completion of embryonic development. So there is no difference. The post-development effect would be similar. The difference is only in the place of fertilization. I am the result of natural fertilization, but in this case the place of fertilization is artificial in the lab. Otherwise, whether we talk about the natural, means the baby with the natural process of fertilization and the baby with the artificial process of fertilization, in both of the cases the development is always natural in the uterus of the female. Right? So fertilization place we can use it artificially, but the development we don't have artificial method for the development of the baby. The baby development would always be natural, right? And still we don't have any mechanism to develop baby artificially in the lab. I hope you understand. Jitin Raj, how we can separate egg from the female? Yeah, that is possible. We have a technique. We are supposed to extract the egg from the female ovary. So that technique is there. Like the blood we are taking from the body of the, suppose we have so many mechanisms for the extraction of the blood from the body, the extraction of the, the bone marrow from the body, right, from the body of the donor. Like the same, we also have a method for the extraction of the egg from the body of the female. Yeah, this is possible. Still, we are doing the same. We are not separating egg from the female. We are simply extracting egg from the female body. We are simply extracting egg from the female body. Inserting a needle in the ovary of the female. Yes, and then extracting egg from the the ovary of the female. Siddhant. The MTR, in the process of the MTR, what we have done earlier in the second lecture, that is the mitochondrial replacement transfer technology. In the case of MTR, the entire MTR is facilitated by the IVF. Means we are not, I told you earlier, but still I am repeating, that is not possible to change genetic sequences, right, in the female body. So in that case, I'm just talking about the mitochondrial gene replacement technology, right? In that case, we need to take the sperm from the body of the biological male, we need to take the egg from the body of the biological female, and even we need to take the egg from the body of the donor's egg. And again, either we are going to fix it before the fertilization or we are going to fix it after the fertilization. So we are doing everything artificially in the lab. And once the zygote is established, then we are transferring to the uterus for the commencement of the embryonic development. Right, the fixing gene and the fertilization is completely artificial in the lab. And then after doing this entire exercise, we are transferring to the female uterus for the completion of the embryonic development. Right, so I told you this is the IVF assisted technology. The entire technique is supported by the IVF. Fine, and after fixing the genetic problem, we are transferring the zygote, we are transferring this embryo to the female uterus for the completion of the embryonic development. Yes, fine, okay. I hope you understand. And there is a genuine question from the Sushant. So sex determination is possible at which stage of the sex determination? We have two different aspects of the sexual determination. One is clinical sexual determination. Means processes means the fertilization is done naturally. Suppose if I am going to take my case, so I was resulted as a process of fertilization. Clear? I was resulted as a process of fertilization, and that fertilization was natural after the mixing of my mother's egg and the father's sperm, right? So I resulted, and then I was resulted in the zygotic stage, and then I started developing in the embryonic stage. So after the completion of the first trimester, 3 months, 4 months, then the doctor is going to observe the movement and the development of the baby, right? Nowadays, through the sonography technique. It's a radio wave technique, that is the ultrasonography. So after 4 to 5 months, doctor is able to find out whether the baby is male or female. That is what? That is the clinical sexual determination. It's a clinical demonstration of the sex. We cannot reverse it. We are going to justify, we are going to see whether the developing baby is male or female. That stands for the clinical sexual determination, that is punishable offense. Right? And right, what you are talking about, if we are going to perform the entire process artificially in the lab, in that case, right, even before the fertilization, we could also determine the sex of the baby. Like example, suppose we are going to perform this IVF, and the nature of egg is fixed as a 22 plus egg, female donated egg, and the nature of egg is 22 plus eggs. Fine. While the male donated sperm and the nature of this sperm is either 22 plus X or 22 plus Y. And then we need to separate. That could be possible. We need to make it separate. Like this. So in one bottle, we have simply stored this X type, and in one bottle we have simply stored this Y type. That is possible. We have a technique for the separation of. Suppose if someone has donated his sperm in the lab, so nowadays we have a technique for the separation of the X type of his sperm and the Y type of his sperm. Clear? And if the couple is demanding for, I need male baby, in that case what is possible? This egg will fertilize with Y type of his sperm. Means before the process of fertilization, we have already fixed the sex of the baby. We have already determined the sex of the baby. This is called as the pre-implantation sexual determination. Pre-implantation sexual determination, right? But in India, either clinical demonstration of the sex or this kind of the sexual determination, both are punishable offense. So in India, any kind of sexual determination is punishable offense under PCPNDT Act 1994. Right? And the PCPNDT Act is what? It's a preconception. Preconception means before transferring embryo to the female uterus, we have fixed the sex of the baby, and that is possible by mixing either X type of sperm or Y type of sperm. That makes a sense of the preconception. And prenatal determination test Act 1994. Prenatal determination means what? This preconception means before fertilization, and the prenatal means in embryonic development, and in both of the cases sexual determination in India is punishable offense. Sushant, I hope you understand. Sushant, I hope you understand. So as per the PCPNDT Act, sexual determination is punishable offense in India. As per this act, sexual determination is punishable offense in India. Punishable offense in India. Riddhima, no. Sonography are not harmful for the baby. Nowadays, the technique that we are using for the we are not supposed, see, we are using this radio technique for just to see the determination of, just to see the movement of the baby and just to see the growth of the baby, right? So that is the safest way to determine safest way to observe the movement and the growth of the baby. Otherwise, before this, we were using a different technique, and that technique was harmful technique. So nowadays, we are using the safe technique, and this is what, it's a radio wave based technique, and this radio wave based technique is the sonography technique. Right? Okay? Okay? The third technique is what? That is artificial Balla, can we get the twin baby by IVF? But you see, Balla, we can get the twin baby in IVF, but that is the dizygotic twin. Yes, you are not going to get the two Salman Khan or two Deepika Padukone in the case of IVF, right? What we can get, we can extract two egg from the female body, and then it is fertilized by the sperm separately, and then right, both zygotes are well functional, and then we are going to transfer these two zygotes independently in the same female. So the both baby are going to be developed in the same embryonic cycle, and they will consider as a twin. But that is the case of dizygotic twin. Monozygotic twin condition is not possible. Manish, one sperm fertilized one egg. And what about the rest of the sperms? The longevity of the sperm is hardly 72 hours in the body. So the rest of the sperms are going to be abolished. It's going to be evolved. Jitin, the male sperm. So definitely the result would be what? So definitely this result would be female baby. That we know before fertilization, because in the extract of the sperm we have only X type of sperm and we have simply discarded Y type of sperm. So we are pretty sure that this baby, the resultant baby, is going to be female. Or suppose we have discarded X type of sperm and we have only Y type of sperm. So we know that when this Y type of sperm is going to be fertilized with the X type of egg, so the result would be the zygote with the XY. So before this, here what happened? Now it is 50-50 only once the sperm have both X and Y type of chromosome. But even we have discarded either X type of chromosome, X sperm or Y type of sperm. So definitely we are pretty sure before the fertilization, the baby is going to be male or female. That makes a sense of what we are talking about. Fine, okay. Then the next is the artificial insemination. Artificial insemination. And artificial insemination is what? That is, we are simply fetal is injected with semen. Artificially. Yes? And then what happened? Fertilization is natural, and even embryonic development is natural. Fine, like example. Here, let me take here. Suppose if I am going to insert, if this is what, it's the egg of the female, and from here if I am going to insert semen artificially, clear? So this insertion of the semen is artificially, and which is followed by fertilization naturally, and the rest of the developmental process naturally. So only this part is supported through the technique and this part is what? That is the insertion of semen, because probably the male counterpart of that female does not have the sufficient sperm count. In that case, now this female is getting injected to the female is getting injected to the semen from the external source, means from the sperm bank, and that is the best example of assisted reproductive technology as an artificial insemination. Fine. So that artificial insemination is done only when the male counterpart of female is not up to the mark in the sperm count. So that is supported by this. In that case, fertilization is supported with the help of technique by the insertion of semen artificially in fallopian tube, and the source of this semen is what? So sperm bank. Right? Fine. I hope you understand. The term semen, in fact, what? The male ejaculation is the semen. The male ejaculation is semen, and the semen has so many components. The sperm is reproductive cell of semen. The semen has so many components like the seminal fluids, as well as a number of nutritional components are the part of the semen. So semen is collective term. It's a generic term for the entire ejaculation, and the fertile cell, reproductive cell within the semen is what? The fertile cell within the semen is what? It's a sperm cell. Right? So semen itself has a sperm cell as well as a number of cells which is required to provide nutrition to the sperm cells. So the ejaculation is always semen. Okay, fine. The next is, and the last would be surrogacy. And the surrogacy is what? Surrogacy is renting of wombs or uterus. Renting of womb or uterus. So this is an arrangement between couple and female. Right? The couple, as a result of IVF, this couple has zygote, and then this zygote is transferred to this female uterus for the completion of embryonic development. Like example, suppose I resulted in lab as a result of the IVF. Suppose. So in that case, what happened? I was made after if I was supposed to be made after the mixing of my father's sperm and my mother's egg in the lab, and then I was established in the form of zygote. Fine, and then after that I was supposed to be transferred to my mother's uterus of my biological mother, for the completion of the 9 months of the embryonic development. But suppose my mother is not able to hold me for the 9 months because probably she has a uterus problem, probably she is not supported by that much of hormone which is required for the 9 months of embryonic development, right? Or probably she is not able to conceive me because of other factors. But I am the product of the mixing of the egg of my biological mother. So genetically I belong to the biological female or biological mother, because right, I am carrying 50% of the gene sequences from the biological female, but even she is not able to provide me space for the completion of the embryonic development. In that case, my parents, they approached a female, and that female is biologically not connected to me directly. And now if the female is ready to provide space for my embryonic development, so this is an arrangement between my parent and that female, and that female is ready to provide me space for my embryonic for provide space for the completion of my embryonic development, and after 9 months of the embryonic development, that female is going to give me birth. That is what it's a surrogacy. This is what it's a surrogacy, an arrangement between a couple and a female to hold their baby and to provide 9 months of the gestation period, to provide uterus for the 9 months of the embryonic development. Clear? That make a sense of renting a womb, and that is what it's a case of the surrogacy, right? And the surrogacy case of this surrogacy needs IVF, and it is mostly called. I'm just coming to the. Let me elaborate this surrogacy. Then probably you are not going to ask anything. Yes, fine. Clear? Fine. So now this surrogacy was commercial surrogacy was permitted in India, but nowadays commercial surrogacy is banned in India. So coming to the main provision of Union Cabinet has approved Surrogacy Regulation Bill 2020. Yes, and these are the key points of this bill. These are the key points of this bill, what we are talking about. It provides constitution of Manav, just hold your question and please let me elaborate this surrogacy regulation bill, and then you please ask your question, right? We are going to elaborate everything. Probably you are not going to ask anything, right? So let me elaborate. So this surrogacy, the feature of this particular bill, it provides a constitution of the surrogacy board at national and the state level to ensure effective regulation. This is the first part of this bill. The second part, it seeks to allow the ethical altruistic surrogacy. Altruistic surrogacy means the surrogate mother must be in close relationship. The surrogate mother must be in close relationship, so that female will feel touch, that female will feel emotion for that developing baby, that make a sense of altruistic surrogacy. And even couple is not going to exploit surrogate mother if the surrogate mother is in close relation to the couple, right? So the one is what? The surrogate mother will not be exploited by the couple, and even that is the provision from the couple side. And the female, if the female is close relative to the couple, so definitely this female will feel more emotional connect to the developing baby, and obviously the entire development is basically depending upon the emotion, because somewhere if some female is getting connected to the developing baby emotionally, so that connection is going to trigger hormone to that sufficient extent which is required to provide normal conditions for the baby development, right? So entire development is it's a hormonal development in female, right? So it seeks to allow altruistic surrogacy to the intending infertile Indian married couple. This is mentioned as an Indian married couple. And here the age is also fixed as age of 23 to 50 for the female is fixed, and 26 to 55 for the male is fixed. Fine. Only Indian couple can opt for surrogacy. Yes? No. Foreign couple. It is banned. No. Homosexual couple banned. No for couple in living relationship. Right? It makes it mandatory for the couple to obtain the certificate of essentiality and also certificate for eligibility before going ahead with the surrogacy. Means the couple must be certified by doctor, right? Really, they need surrogacy. It is not like that you need surrogacy as a luxury. Anna, you have money and you are just trying to avail the surrogacy as a luxury, though you are fertile couple. So in that case, it is not possible. Means as per this bill, nowadays it is not possible. Earlier it became possible. Like see the best example of the third baby of the Shah Rukh Khan. Amen. The third baby of the Shah Rukh Khan was controversial because both were biological. Right? Both were biological fertile, but they availed the surrogacy. They availed the surrogacy and the third baby resulted clear. So that is something, that is against the biological aspect because biologically you are fit for the baby. Biologically you are fit for the baby, you are fit for the natural process, you are fit for the you are fit naturally to give birth to the baby. But you are just trying to avail the surrogacy because you don't want to feel the pain of that motherhood for the third baby, and then you avail this surrogacy. So earlier it became possible, but nowadays, as per this bill, it is not possible onwards. Fine. Again, the next clause of this bill, it also provides that the intending couple should not abandon baby, right, born out of the surrogacy in any condition. Means you opted surrogacy. And if the surrogate baby is the female, so then in that case you are going to deny. It is not possible. Fine, any baby, whether it is the male, female, any baby is going to be developed, is going to be born. You need to claim it, you need to accept it. You are not supposed to be abandoned. Fine? And the newborn child shall be entitled to all rights and the privilege that is available to the natural child. Shilpa Shetty. This bill also seeks to regulate the functioning of the surrogacy clinic. All surrogacy clinic in country needs to be registered by appropriate authority in order to undertake surrogacy or its related procedure. Right? There must be the unanimous procedure for the surrogacy. Right? And these surrogacy clinic must be accountable to competent authority. That is the reason behind why we recommended to establish surrogacy regulatory board at national and state level. This bill provides various safeguards for the surrogate mother, and one of them is what? It's an insurance coverage. Obviously, the post-pregnancy, there are so many complications after the pregnancy of the baby. After the birth of the baby, that is the post-pregnancy complication. Fine. So earlier it was not possible. Means it was not the part of this. Means the insurance means the post pregnancy complication will not be included as a part of the surrogacy regulation bill. And in that case, if the baby started suffering from any kind of the complication, so that was not responsibility of the doctor or even the couple. But now it is not possible because already that female is insured by insurance coverage. Fine, and even in surrogacy, we cannot go for the sex selection. We cannot go for the sex selection, right? We cannot go for the sex selection. We are not supposed to opt for the male and the female. Why? Because already I told you. Because in India, PCPNDT Act, as per the PCPNDT Act, the sex selection or the sex determination is punishable offense. Yes, fine. right? So this is all about sexual determination as well as ARD. Mano, will the baby will have any genetic feature or any common feature with the rented female? Not at all. Not at all. Why? Because see, this is the zygote, and this zygote is the result of the mixing of the sperm and the egg. Clear? So this zygote is carrying information or genetic similarity with the source of sperm and the egg. Right? Now onwards, this zygote is going to be developed anywhere. This zygote is going to be developed anywhere. This zygote or the embryo will always show similarity with the source of the sperm and the egg. Right? So it is not going to show any similarity with the rented female. Mano. Fine. So any more discussion you are willing to, any more discussion or any more point you are willing to ask, please let me know. Any one of you is willing to ask anything, please let me know. I am just waiting for your questions. If any doubt regarding the entire discussion, please. No. Right. Fine. Yes, the blood group of the child is determined by the process of fertilization. Namrata. Tomorrow I will let you know how this blood is being, how the blood group is determined. Tomorrow we are going to discuss this concept as a whole concept of the blood group determination and the blood composition. Yes, the surrogate mother will lactate because the process of lactation is also supported by the hormone. And once the baby is conceived in the uterus of the female, so many hormones, right? That female is that surrogate mother, whether it is the surrogate mother or it is the biological mother, right? Once the baby gets established in the uterus of the female, so that establishment leads to the secretion of a number of hormones, and these number of hormones are required for the completion of the development of that zygote. Not only this, even right, these hormones are also required for the birth of the baby and the lactation of the mother even after the birth of the baby. Jyoti, in the case of Tushar Kapoor, in the case of Karan Johar, that became possible earlier. That was the case of single parent. But as per the bill, it is not, as per this bill, right, it will not possible further. It will not possible further. So that became possible earlier, whether it was the case of the Karan Johar, Ekta Kapoor, Tushar Kapoor, that was the case of the single parent. But this bill onwards, it will not be possible further. Siddhant, why this 46 will become 92? See, simple, it's a very simple. It's a very simple, just to ensure the equal distribution of the chromosome. See, one cell with the 46 number of chromosome in mitosis. Mitosis is equational division. So this is going to result two cells with the same number of chromosome. So that will become possible only when there must be the stage of doubling of chromosome, and this will become 92, and that is what? It's a replication. Again, like the same, in the case of meiosis, what is going to be done? One cell will result 4 daughter cells with half of the number of chromosome. This is 46, this is 23, 23, 23, 23. So altogether it's a 92. So there must be what? There must be the application for the. So it's a natural process. Whether it is the case of mitosis or meiosis, it's a natural process just to ensure. Right? Someone asked about the syndrome. Listen, we know syndrome. Syndrome is what? It's a set of symptoms. Syndrome is a set of symptoms. There's a difference between the disease and the syndrome. Disease is always specific in symptom. Like fever is disease. Like this, but the syndrome is what? It's a set of symptoms. Like HIV is symptom. AIDS is symptom, because in the case of AIDS, we are going to show so many symptoms, like see, the loss of weight, loss of immunity, loss of appetite, that make a set of symptoms, and the set of symptoms are syndromic conditions. Pallavi, how it is possible to get the single parent as a surrogate? Yes, fine, possible. Suppose if the male is trying to become like in the case of Karan Johar, they opted for a single parent, means the only one source of gamete is known. Means Karan Johar donated his semen in the lab, and that semen was fertilized with the unknown source of egg. Unknown source of egg means the unknown source of the egg, and then this fertilization took place in the lab artificially, and that was transferred to female uterus for the completion of zygote. So in that case, there's an involvement of egg and sperm, but the source of sperm is revealed, while the source of sperm is revealed, and that source is what? It's a Karan Johar, while the source of egg is hidden. It is confidential. Right? It is confidential, and this could never be revealed because of the ethical, biological, and the legal aspect. Right? Fine. So suppose if I am going to donate my sperm in the lab, clear? So if I donated, so they are going to countersign, they are going to get my signature, and now